most important thing is this. We bring everyone home.
Mistakes get us killed.
What's up, everybody? It's Ryan. Welcome to the channel. If you haven't been here before, I'm a former F-15E combat fighter pilot, F-16 Thunderbird pilot, and commercial pilot. Someone on Instagram asked if I would break down the trailer to Devotion, so ask and you shall receive. At the very end of this video, if you stay to the end,
Get over here!
I'll give some bonus information on things that I saw from flying with black aviators, watching them crush it, and then hanging out with the Tuskegee Airmen and some stories about that experience. Stay to the end, definitely, to get that. But before we get going, if you would, just dominate that like button for me. Maybe even subscribe. Every time you dominate that like button, a pilot somewhere gets their wings. With that said, let's dive into Devotion. Some quick background on Devotion. The film stars Jonathan Majors, and he plays Ensign Jesse Brown. Now, Jesse Brown was the first black carrier qualified aviator, so talk about having to deal with adversity piled on top of adversity. Just insane, the dedication and the true devotion that Jesse had to make it through that program and then go on to be a successful combat aviator. Just incredible. And then we've got Glenn Powell flying in as Thomas J. Hudner Jr., who's the wingman of Jesse Brown. We couldn't get enough of him in Top Gun Maverick, so we had to bring him back in for Devotion.
Ready, set, hit!
All right, so Devotion is gonna be based in the Korean War, where they're flying in and they're flying close air support for the Korean conflict. Now this is, again, it's the forgotten war, right? It's the one that no one really talks about, but it was an incredibly deadly war, and flying close air support in Corsairs like they're doing here, pointed down like that, with AAA exploding all around them. I mean, man, just talk about an intense combat environment.
You the only person I ever met belonged in the sky. Just remember you belong down here with us too, okay?
I like that. I like what she said because I think that applies to a lot of fighter aviators and potentially aviators in general, is you can get so tied up, especially when you're about to go into combat, in living, breathing, sleeping, everything you're thinking about is related to going into combat. Any intense job is like that, right? You're gonna go out and put your life on the line, and sometimes it's hard to bring yourself down to earth. So you definitely have to have tactics and strategies, and having loved ones around you that remind you, hey, you need to come back down to earth a little bit, is super helpful.
Your commanding officer called you one of the best pilots he's ever seen. It must be hard being the naval aviator.
So that's interesting, right? He's not focused on the fact that he's the first black carrier qualified aviator. He's focused on the fact that he's a naval aviator, and he's focused on going into combat. Now, talk about overcoming adversity, compartmentalizing, and dealing with things that I could not even imagine. But instead of focusing on that, he's focused on being the best naval aviator he can be. And I'm assuming, man, I don't know, but I'm assuming to go into combat flying one of these things in the Korean War, that's where your mind had to be.
Absolutely. The whole world's looking different.
And no matter how stone cold you are as a pilot, that little exhale right there, that's gonna happen to every single pilot doing intense scenarios. I mean, just a side story, even landing like a, I don't know, even in an airliner, like a 737 or an Airbus, like an A220 on an icy runway at night, short runway, winds blowing all over the place, you do a successful landing, you're gonna breathe out like that. So that's nothing compared to catching a cable on the deck of an aircraft carrier. So any pilot, that's gonna get your blood pumping, and if it doesn't, you're a robot.
Looking different.
Did you ever think that you'd be in a squadron with a colored aviator?
Lieutenant Tom Hudner.
Jesse Brown. It's good to meet you.
So I like that interaction right there, because Thomas Hudner is, in my opinion, he's approaching this as someone that he's feeling out. You know, regardless of your skin color, you're feeling out other aviators based on their performance, your ability to trust them in combat. And I like that he didn't respond to that one dude saying, you know, what he said right there. He's just kind of like, dude, I don't care. I'm gonna assess whether this is someone I can trust in combat, And, you know, I'm going to be competing against them, because even when you're in combat, believe it or not, you know, fighter pilots in combat with your wingman, you're still kind of competing for the right of being the best pilot. You're constantly striving and fighting for that. So that's the attitude I got from Hudner right there.
We're taking a slight detour on the way home. Say again?
What are you gonna find out about your wingman cruising at 10,000 feet, Lieutenant? Put him in a little bit of trouble. Who knows? We might get a peek at who he really is.
The North Koreans came pouring.
I think it's awesome that Jesse Brown, so he's the flight lead in that scenario. Thomas Hudner is his wingman. And he's like, I'm gonna test you out. Let's see if you can hang with me. Because again, he's doing the reverse as well. So not only is Hudner testing out Brown, but Brown's testing out Hudner. You know, that's the beauty of this movie, I think, is just focusing on the fact that no matter who you are, if you're the flight lead in the formation that day, you're gonna be testing out your wingman to see if you can hang with them and see if they can hang with you. See if you can trust them in combat. That's super cool.
Koreans came pouring over the 38th parallel.
Our guys need help, and we're up.
We knew this day might come.
Yeah, it doesn't make it any easier.
The most important thing is this. We bring everyone home.
Mistakes get us killed.
Can't tell you how many times people have told me to give up, quit, die even.
That adversity, man, it's still like, it just fires me up. The fact that Jesse Brown overcame that to go on and become a naval aviator and be someone you could trust in combat. Like, man, that mental strength, that fortitude, that courage, wow.
That's why you can't always do what you're told.
All right, so we got the MiG-15 entering the fight. Now, going into Korea and seeing a MiG-15, that had to be an insane experience because Korea was backed by the Soviets. So you most likely knew that the Soviets were up there and you're fighting against a very well-qualified pilot for the time. So getting into a dogfight with a MiG-15, I mean, that had to be a gut check. And I don't know, I mean, at the end of the day, you know, the planes that they're flying in devotion, that the US is flying, you know, they're maneuverable, right? Propeller planes, Corsairs, very maneuverable, but you're going up against a jet. So not that the jet's always gonna win. I mean, there's other examples in World War II where the P-51's shooting down all kinds of jets over Germany. So not a big deal necessarily, but at the end of the day, very interesting that these American aviators, these naval aviators, are fighting against Russian pilots in the Korean War. Just wild.
If I did, I wouldn't be here.
What do you want me to do?
Just be my wingman.
Again, going back to the basics, right? All kinds of things they could be focusing on, right? All kinds of things that are just totally crazy at the time, you know? Feeling segregation in a fighter squadron, that's just totally ridiculous to me. But I think that you have to compartmentalize, and at the point they were at, where they're going into intense combat situations, just be my wingman, that's the perfect thing, and I think that's what we would all want out of anyone, no matter what the color of your skin is.
The real battle in all of life is being someone that people can count on. Show off.
That was pretty good.
It's good. I love that. The real battle in life is being someone that people can count on. And that goes for anything, no matter what your profession is, but certainly when you're in combat aviation. And this is a quote from Jonathan Majors. I thought it was cool to wrap this up with. There's no white savior in the film. And the film is in quotes. We were adamant about that. These men didn't like each other. They were forced together by fate. The thing that these two men had inside of them that connected them was the idea of devotion. Again, devotion to your wingman, devotion to your country, devotion to your mission, devotion to yourself, to rise up and be your best self. To me, that's what I'm getting out of this film from watching this trailer, and I think that's exactly what it stood for. And I think it's cool how they bring in the Band of Brothers type feel, where it becomes more about just the mission, it becomes more about the conflict and politics and things like that, and it becomes about the person next to you. And focusing on that person and bringing them home is one of your biggest priorities. And I love that. When I went into combat, I did that exact same thing. So it's really cool to see in the film how they're able to connect that and bring that out as the central point of this film. That no matter who you are, no matter what the color of your skin is, you're brothers and sisters when you're fighting and flying next to each other. Super cool to see that. And then a quick story about the Tuskegee Airmen and getting to hang out with them. You stay to the end of the video, so of course I'm gonna give you that bonus information. I got to hang out with them after an air show. There was probably, I think, 4 of them with their families. And something that I noticed was very similar to the attitude of Jesse Brown. They were focused on being the best aviators that they could possibly be. Now, they were up against so much injustice at the time. But the fact that they came into the squadrons, they crushed it. The Tuskegee Redtails literally crushed it. They were excellent aviators. They had the reputation of being someone that you would want to protect you if you were a bomber pilot. So they had that attitude about them. They carried themselves with a sense of pride in who they are, a pride in their heritage, and just the devotion to each other and the devotion to your wingman. So getting to see that in real life, sitting next to them, getting to share moments with them, is something that I'll cherish and never forget. So at the end of the day, it's super cool to see courage, selflessness, the ability to be your best self, and to protect those around you, to persevere over racism. I think that's what this film stands for, and I can't wait to go see it. You should definitely go check it out. If you wouldn't mind, before you get going, please just dominate that like button. Maybe even subscribe. Hit me up on Instagram if you'd like to say hello. See you in the next video. Most of all, have a great day.